Hello everyone, today I want to talk about El Clasico, one of the toughest game for Setien, but not one of the toughest game for Zidane. This is how Barcelona pressed. On the left side, when the ball here was on the left side, because they wanted to actually nullify Vinicius and Cruz and Marcelo, so they had actually, this was a 4-4-2 formation, a flat formation for Barcelona. When they were pressing on the right side of their pressing, it was a zonal marking. So Real Madrid was forced to move the ball here into the right side where Carvajal was, and then De Jong would change from zonal marking to man-to-man marking. One thing here is that Real Madrid had overload in these areas. That is why Barcelona has zonal marking here. They had overloads on the left side, and they had to deal with man-to-man situations on the right side. Real Madrid. One important thing is that Messi was not pressing really well in this game. In Barcelona philosophy, the first attacker should be the first defender. That is what Lionel Messi is not doing in Barcelona. He lost a lot of duels. He wasn't a good presser in this game, and that is one of the problems. I will tell you later why this problem for Messi was really a big problem for the whole defensive structure of Setien's team. On the other side, when Barcelona had the ball, Cruz was having a man-to-man duel with Arthur. That is why Arthur couldn't actually breathe in the middle of the pitch. You can see when a player presses really good, other players can make sure, okay, we can do our tasks now. But when you're not a good presser, when you don't press really well, that makes a lot of problem for you. Cruz pressed Arthur really well. Of course, Arthur had the ball in these areas, but he didn't have a lot of balls here where he could just pass the ball to Griezmann or Messi. So yes, they had a 3-man. This was like chain. Okay, you want to have the ball, sometimes Messi would come here. We saw a lot of times, okay, you're Messi, okay, have the ball here, that's okay, but we don't let you come here and have the ball in these spaces. That is why Cruz had a man-to-man situation with Arthur. But when the ball moved to the left side, Carvajal dealt with Alba, and De Jong wanted to use these gaps between the players, so Valverde would just follow him. So this changed to a 5-4-1 formation for Real Madrid to try to nullify De Jong's movements. But here is a pressing trap for Arturo Vidal. He is a right foot player who is not a very good carrier of the ball, but he is a fighter. So they tried to Real Madrid tried to close all the passing lanes to players, not to Vidal. They tried to open the passing lanes to Vidal. So when he wanted to receive the ball, then they pressed. Let me show you in the three-dimensional. Okay, this is Vidal. This is how he actually receives the ball. He couldn't turn. If he turned, okay, he should use his right foot. So that is how he can face the pitch. He has to face like this. He has to put his body like this. He cannot move here with his left foot past the ball, past diagonal balls. It didn't have the right accuracy, the right speed, the right strength. The pass wasn't very good, and they knew it. Real Madrid players knew it very well, and they set a trap for Vidal. This happened a lot of times, and they could actually have a counter attack. So Vidal was forced to pass the ball to Semedo. This is another problem for Barcelona. Semedo didn't have enough options. Real Madrid would cover the depth really well after these situations. Then Semedo didn't have the ball, didn't have many options, so he just could pass the ball, for example, here to Arthur or maybe Busquets. So passing option was one problem, And the positioning of the players was another problem. When, for example, Messi was here, he caught the ball here, for example, maybe in counter attacks, after breaking that chain, that three-man chain here, and Alba wasn't in these spaces. He was a little bit back, helping PK and Umtiti. This is what happened. Here is De Jong. He wasn't a natural winger, so Carvajal will think, okay, he's not so dangerous here. He's not a left foot player. He's a right foot player here. I can leave. We can have a compact situation here where we can stop Messi. And if Messi passes the ball to De Jong, if he passes the ball to Messi, this is how De Jong would actually receive the ball. Okay, he would receive the ball like this. Okay, I cannot pass the ball with my left foot with the right accuracy. I should turn my body, put the ball on my right foot, and then have the cross. So in that time, when you're doing this, Carvajal would arrive here. So you're not a natural winger, so you put your body between the ball. That is what De Jongs do, and actually pass the ball to the back. So positioning was another problem. But here's a hint for Barcelona. They try to stay wide, Griezmann and Messi. Okay, I would think, okay, what was Messi and Griezmann, what were they doing actually in the game? For example, in the counter attacks for Barcelona, when for example they catch the ball on the left side, Griezmann would come here dragging Rafael Varane. Varane and Ramos dealt with the man-to-man situation with Messi and Griezmann. So here is the gap. Look at this gap here. So this is the gap that you want to use. They used these gaps against Real Madrid last year with Dembele. They scored the goal. But here is Arthur. He's a midfielder. He's not a finisher. He's not a guy with the speed. Of course, he actually could beat Cruz here, but he couldn't score the goal against Courtois. Just imagine that you have a player who has the right speed. They don't have wingers. They didn't have the right players to deal with this situation. But this was a good hint for Barcelona. This is what Manchester City did against Real Madrid. They tried to use the space behind Casemiro. This is number 14, Casemiro, the space behind him. Kevin De Bruyne was the right player to do this. He has the right speed, the right actually physical situation, physical condition, and he could beat Real Madrid with his penetration behind Casemiro. So of course Barcelona did it, but they didn't have the right players to do this. Maybe just or one time they used the space or these gaps behind. So let's not change anything here. This is what Real Madrid did against Manchester City. They tried to shift the ball to the left side. When the ball moved here, Vinicius was penetrating these spaces. Let me show you the space. The gap, actually used these gaps. He moved between the players, between Semedo and PK, and Marcelo was here. So Marcelo could actually pass the ball to Vinicius, who was here, or just cross the ball for Benzema, who occupied PK. When he did this, he kept PK busy with himself. So if PK wanted to follow him, the gap would become bigger. If PK wanted to deal with Vinicius, Benzema would make a corridor for Marcelo's cross, so he had the space to actually head the ball, which he did a lot of times. He does it a lot of times, making corridor. That is why Zidane likes him. So in the second half, Barcelona tried to change. They tried to actually put pressure on the left side, but because De Jong is not a player that we want here is where Coutinho should be, not De Jong. So they lost the ball a lot of times. This is what Karim Benzema did. In the counter attack, Karim Benzema would use these spaces here. He had a lot of space. He would move to this space here. In counter attacks, for example, Isco passed the ball to Benzema. The Benzema would move forward, and he moved forward with the ball. Then he dragged defenders and make a space for Vinicius. They did it a lot of times. The goal was actually having a one-on-one situation, making one-on-one situation for Vinicius, and actually Vinicius, or maybe using the gap between PK and Semedo So they did it a lot in the counter attacks, and finally they succeed in the first goal. Now this is what happened in the first goal for Real Madrid. Look at Isco, look where he is. This is Carvajal. He acted like a reverse fullback, like just like Marcelo. Marcelo was here, so Busquets should press him. Nelson Semedo was dealing with Benzema, and this is Braithwaite. He was new in the game. He didn't know what to do. And here is Cruz. So this is the space made here. This is De Jong. This is not where you want De Jong want to be. You want him to be here. If this is happening, try to use this space. He was here. He stayed here. So Carvajal moved here. This is the run. So Piqué now was had the dilemma. Actually, they created a dilemma for Piqué. Okay, should I go for Vinicius, or should I stay with Carvajal? He stayed with Carvajal, and here he is, Vinicius. Cruz passed the ball in the space between the players that we talked about, and then Vinicius just scored the goal, and it changed everything. The problems here are that, again, positioning of De Jong was not good enough, and that Busquets had to deal with Marcelo, who was here. Messi could do this too, Griezmann could do this too, but the problem is Barcelona was looking for counter-attacks in this situation. But if you're not defending well, you cannot have a counter-attack. But this is a really good point that we have to look at it. When Semedo was here, let's say that here is not Braithwaite, here is Vidal, number 22. When Vidal was here in this situation, he's not a natural winger. Look at Messi and Griezmann. They would stay here, try to create this gap between Marcelo and other defenders, but Barcelona didn't use these gaps. Just Semedo would come here and maybe have some horizontal movements. This was not good. If you want to create this gap, you have to use it. Just one time, when Braithwaite came, instead of Vidal, who would stay here, Braithwaite had a run. Semedo passed the ball, and he was going to score the goal. So Setien showed that, okay, I want this. I want players. They need wingers. They didn't have wingers, natural wingers. They had a lot of actually players that they were not good in this situation. For example, if Henderson is like this, or actually Sami Khedira in Juventus, they are the players that they can deal in this situation. They can run behind, but Vidal just stayed there. He didn't use the space behind, or even combinations with Semedo. They had the space, they had the gap, but they didn't use. This is one of the things that Setien team should look for. We talked about that how Barcelona tried to have a zonal marking here, try to actually defend the space. So Real Madrid would move the ball here to Carvajal, and then De Jong would come here to have a man-to-man situation. At this time, this is how Valverde actually tried to be a real winger. This is how you use the play. Okay, this is the midfielder, but he has the speed, he has the sprint. So okay, we put him here for double movements, for this marking, for getting layup passes from Benzema. For example, Carvajal would pass the ball here, for example, to Benzema, and then Valverde, who started sooner from Alba, would reach in this position sooner from Alba. So this is, or maybe, for example, Carvajal would pass the ball to Valverde to Benzema, then he would have this run here again sooner from Alba. Alba had a reaction because this is a man-to-man situation, and then he reached here. He would have the ball, he would cross the ball, or actually make a lot of dangerous situations for Barcelona. So we talked about that Messi didn't press really well against Real Madrid. He didn't press really well against Marcelo too. In one-on-one situation, Marcelo could defeat actually Messi really easy, and Messi wasn't as aggressive as usual. So when the first attacker is not a first defender, this is what happens. I call it a vertical overload. This is a vertical overload. So Isco would come here, then Vidal would follow him. Okay, should I follow him, or should I take care of Marcelo, who has a lot of space to pass the ball to Vinicius? And then against Semedo, okay, does Vidal go here? Does Vidal go here, or I go here, or does he go with him and I should stay here and try to intercept the ball or intercept the pass that Marcelo sends for Vinicius, who actually tried to use the gap that we talked about here. So again, when one player doesn't defend really well, the whole structure, the whole defensive structure is collapsed by a single pass like this. Don't forget to subscribe and comment and comment anything that you think about this game, and don't forget to like.